Hi everyone, it's a Tides Changing here, and welcome to part 4 of Let's Build a Rustic Inn. So the first thing that I wanted to address in this part is the modern windows that I put back here. Some of you wanted them to stay and like the view that they gave, and then others felt like the traditional windows looked better. And I agree with those of you who want them to stay. I really like the view that they afford, and I think it's appropriate for a public space because this is an inn. All of this is just public space. You know, it's going to be a bar that people who aren't necessarily staying at the inn can visit. And all the rooms will, of course, have the more rustic windows, so they will be completely private. But, I could see this being a nice tourist attraction, advertising that they have windows that give this nice, beautiful view of the lake. So I'm going to keep them, but there were some tweaks suggested to make them look a little bit better and fit in with the rest of the space. So I will, of course, try some of those out and try to make the windows fit in with the building a little bit better. But as far as suggestions go to improve this, Ewan and Coloranda suggested that I have 2 wide windows in the middle and then 1 wide windows on the sides just to break up the giant glass panes a bit and add in some extra wood. Also, Stephanie suggested framing the windows with trim and columns to make it look more like beams are holding it up, to kind of tie it in with the rest of it a little bit better. And then she also suggested wrapping the windows around one tile, so putting in the floor to ceiling windows here as well. And then Whole Grain Kid also suggested that I lower the roof up here to take away some of the extra space and just make it all look a little bit better. So I will try some of those things out. I think that they are good suggestions for trying to make this work a little bit better. So first I will take away the windows on the side here and then have just one tile wide windows in these spots and also around here. So kind of combining the two of the suggestions that I got. So we will put this here, and this does help to break it up, and then you do have the larger window here in the middle, because if we put in, I think it's fine to have the 2 tile window in the middle, just so right in the middle of it you do have a wider view, I guess is a way to put it. Like you've got a little bit more uninterrupted view right here in the center of it, and then the 1 tiled wide windows on the side do help to break up the glass a bit. Oops. Actually, I'm just going to grab that and place it in, if it would. Okay, so I have to rotate. I don't know why it's being weird. Okay, I'm just going to have to not use that window at all. Okay, so we can put this in here. So I do think this already made it look nicer because it adds some more wood into it, makes it look, makes it tie in with the rest of the woods on the place a little bit more. And then I do actually like the 1 tile wraparound thing because it brings it right around to the railing here, and I really think it helps to open up the view that you get from this window. Although something I did notice is that the woods between these 2 windows are slightly different, but I guess that's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's something that won't be that noticeable. I do think that's fine. Also, Ashley suggested that I get rid of this window right here. This one, since it does look kind of odd. So I'll just remove that, and I guess the door is fine. This could just be like an original door that was in here and they decided not to replace it. But I do like the idea that at one time there may have been smaller traditional windows here, but then they just renovated it to have something else to advertise about to attract guests. And next I will try lowering this roof here and seeing if that helps with making the windows look better. Maybe I'll need to tweak the window some, so I'll just use Alt to be able to do a little more fine tuning when lowering it. So I do think that does help some, but maybe we could just do these smaller windows all the way. What is this? Okay, I don't know why it's being really, really weird. Okay, maybe I don't know why it's doing that. It's really weird that that's happening. Okay, maybe I could take these and move them. Okay, so apparently these ones I can move over and it's fine. And then maybe I can get these ones in beside that. Nope, these are glitching too. Okay, so maybe that's fine, or we could try with just no windows. I kind of like the windows at the top. Maybe we could maybe go back to the larger one in the center and try that again. If it weren't for the blue, I would really like this. I just wish it didn't have the blue in it as well. There is also, where was it? There was this one right here. There is this window right here, which has the same coloring, but it's, okay, maybe I have to raise the window up or the roof up and then put it back. So I'm just gonna raise it up really quick, and it's still being annoying and glitchy. Oh, here we go. Just went down to the right spot. Well, after a bit of messing around, I got all the windows placed, so now I'm going to lower the roof again and see how it looks with the roof a little bit less high. So I do think that the lower roof looks a bit better. I just wish there was windows that were at an angle. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that, but I think that that would look a lot better here. But I mean, I do like having the different heights here. I just wish the windows weren't completely square, because I think it looks a little bit better than not having anything there. I mean, we could lower this even more, but then that's just, I like having the windows there. I just wish there was different kinds. So I guess that's fine. We could also try getting rid of those and just having the ones in the center there. You know, or we could even just have the have just these windows in the center. Actually, maybe I should get rid of these and then move them over. Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know, I'm kind of torn on this. Maybe it looks better just having these since they're a little bit simpler. I'll just leave it at this for the time being. I think that's fine. Although they're not going, okay, here we go. Now they're going all the way down on top of those windows. But maybe they looked a little bit better somewhat higher up. I think they sort of look better like that. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then since we lowered that roof, I think that these roofs here need to be lowered a little bit, so I'm just going to lower them down. And I'm just doing it this way without Alt, just so I make sure I get them to the same exact height. Okay, so there we go. Now it's all looking a little bit more uniform. So I do think that this did help this whole area. I like how this looks. And then now we can try adding in some trim and columns. So I'm just going to use the same trim that I used around the decks, so, you know, we don't get different trims and have it look odd. So I'll just get that. And this does look, it does help to cover up the siding that was showing between the windows. Makes it look a little more like maybe like the windows are sitting on top of this, like being supported by the trim. So I do like how that looks. And I wonder if there is a way we can add trim underneath the, like along the roof here. I'm not sure if we can do that. Maybe we can. I think we should be able to. Maybe. Okay, so apparently it works up. Oh, wait, I think. Oh, the floor isn't pulled up over that area. Okay, so we need to do that. Okay, so we can just scooch this forward. And then now we should. Oh, the trim's already there. Okay. Okay, so now we've got trim above the windows. I do like how that looks. So perhaps we can move these windows down on top of the trim. Yeah, I know, I'm spending a lot of time on these windows back here, but I just really want to make them look right. So now these smaller windows up here are right on top of the trim, kind of looking like they're supported by it. So I do like how this looks. I like the trim underneath the windows. It makes it look like you've got the wood frame around the windows, and then you've also got this framing up above it. So I really like that, and then we can also try adding in some columns, like it's supported by columns too. And I think, okay, so we need to move down, and I have the grid off, so I need to turn it on to get these to place up here. And then maybe we can add them in here, and, oh, what is this? I don't know why columns and everything are being so glitchy. Maybe, okay, can we, there we go, fixed. Good. Okay, I was worried it's gonna stay like... I don't know why this is doing this. Stay. Oh, phew. Okay, so we got that staying. So now let's look at it with the trim and the columns all in place. I'm gonna take off the grid. Okay, I like how this looks. I think this makes these windows look a lot better. It adds more detail to it. It makes it look like... okay, so we can't rotate that to get it lined up on under the other ones, unfortunately. So it's just gonna be, this one's gonna be slightly sticking out more. But oh well, there's not really a whole lot I can do about that, unfortunately. But I do like the look. It definitely makes these modern windows look a little bit more traditional, so I like that. Hopefully that makes things look a lot better. And then we can get a look at the view from the inside of the place. So let's see what we've got going on in here. So fortunately some of the colorings are a little bit different, but I guess they could be using different types of wood. It just drives me nuts how on the second floor things don't really stick out as far, unfortunately, and I don't really think there's nothing there's nothing I can really do to get it to not be popping into the interior, unfortunately. But maybe once I've got, because this place will probably have a lot of wood on the walls, so once I get all the wood and stuff in here, it might just blend in a little bit more. And I guess, you know, they can use different kinds of wood in the same build, you know, especially if maybe the columns were here before and then the windows were put in later. They might be a slightly different kind of wood or newer wood, so they look less worn. Who knows? And then unfortunately we've got some glitching going on up here. Ugh, that's kind of, I don't know why the lighting is glitching in here so much. I guess that the game just really doesn't like open rooms. And also the trim is showing through in here, which I guess is kind of nice. Like if I can get this floor all the way up here, then it would be kind of nice to have exposed trim in here. Like it might actually fit in with the style of the place pretty well. But I'm going to move on from this for the time being. I've spent plenty of time on these windows here, but I think that's really good. Also regarding the roof, more people seem to like the second green roof that I showed, the shingle one. So that won a few more people over, but I'm not going to mess with the roof for the time being. I'm just going to do all the landscaping and then revisit that. There are also more concerns over there still being too much brown on this place, but I don't really want to, I wasn't really that fond of the green railings and columns. I feel like it's a little bit too much of a green. I just didn't really like it, so I don't really want to go back to the green railing or columns. But something to keep in mind is that when I do furnish the decks, the furniture will have different colors and stuff like that on it. So it will add a lot more color to it once I actually get furniture on these decks, and you know, there will be a good bit of furnishing on them. So once I have different colored furnishing, and you know, if I were to have different color railings, it might be a little bit too much. So, you know, we'll see how it looks after I furnish everything. It might just look a lot better. But now I'm going to basically finish up the front of the house, and if I have time, I'll get around to the back of it. I'm sorry I spent so much time on those windows. I just really wanted to make sure they were squared up, but I'm a lot happier with them now. Oh, actually, before getting onto landscaping, I just remembered that Alex suggested that I try a different texture, but a similar color of wood on the bump out area. So there is this clapboard right here, which comes in, I believe, a similar color. So yeah, it's a pretty, yeah, that's actually like the same color pretty much. So we can try that on the bump out area. So it's similar, because I think the wood was a little bit too much, although these windows cover a lot of it up. So we could try this horizontal clapboard on the bump out area just to give a little bit of variety to it. So I'm just gonna place, okay, so we're good there. So there we go. I think that this does help to switch things up a bit. And it's pretty much the same color, but a different texture, so it, you know, it doesn't stand out too much. So I think that is a nice change up there, and also looks really nice up here. So there we go. Now that that's done, I'm going to actually move on to the garden now. Brooke and Rachel both said that they felt like the garden looked better with a rock border on it, but I do like the actual plants that are in here now. Like, I like having more plants, you know, rather than it being spread out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rock border back in, but I'm going to keep the plants the same. So it's still going to be, you know, all the plants that were in here, just, I might just push some of them back, though, so they don't come forward past the rocks. But I'm just going to put in a nice rock border, vary up the rocks a bit so it looks natural. Because definitely, like, when you're doing rock borders, you definitely want to use different kinds of rocks. Like, you don't want to just put the same rock oriented the same way, because that looks really unnatural. And I also like to, place them while holding Alt down so I can just fine-tune the rotating of them to really get a lot of variety. I do know that you can hold Shift down when you place items, and then, you know, you won't have to go back in and select that. But for doing this, I just like doing it this way because I like to use different rocks and just rotate them different ways as I place them for a lot of variety. So I'm just kind of grabbing just random rocks, rotating them randomly. Like, each time I'm just grabbing a random rock. So it adds a nice bit of variety in the garden. And right here, I think this looks nice. We can just push this forward a little bit. And then maybe just push this plant back a little bit so it doesn't pop through so much. So here it is with the rock border back in, and I actually do like that. So let's take away the rock border and revisit it without it. Okay, yeah, I actually do like the rock border back in here more with more plants. It definitely does make it look a bit more like it's manicured, so I do like it. It does look very nice. So now I'm just going to do the same thing over here, and I might make things in here a little bit less busy. So I'm going to push all this back just a little bit so the rock border will stick out where, I guess, like right around here. And this garden does need a little bit of... I'm trying to get this plant right... Not that one. I'm trying to get these flowers right here. Okay, got them. And then we've already got these two rocks right here, so I'm just going to have the border kind of go along where they are. So now I'm going to get the rock border going on, and I do think that that will help make things look a bit nicer. And I do like the way I have the plants, because before when I did the rock border, it was a little bit, the plants were a little bit scarcer, but I do, for this place, I do like the more, I guess, a lush, I would call it lush gardening, I guess, like the more full, like, just filled with plants kind of a garden. Alright, so, and I'm not gonna put rocks around the tree, because it might be too busy if I have rocks everywhere. And just get this around here. Although I might actually continue this garden over into here, but I can just take that rock away later. And then I do need to pull this one out a little bit more, and then get another rock right here. And get another one right here. So this is just kind of like tedious stuff. And I do think we need to push this plant back a little bit. I think that looks nice with a little bit peeking through right there. And scooch this guy forward a little bit. Okay, so I like that. It might be a teensy bit busy, but I think it's fine. And I think, like I said, I think it'll all look better once I actually get some furnishing up here. I mean, I think since this is technically kind of a community lot, it's fine. Yeah, I do like it with a rock border more. Yeah, since this is pretty much like a community lot, I do think that it's fine to have the rock borders and have a little bit more of a manicured type landscaping. I also think that this sign right here needs a little bit of tweaking. Emily suggested that I use smaller plants behind the sign, so I'm just going to take out the fern and maybe make it a little bit smaller, and also push this, I meant to grab the rock. Also, I wanted to push the sign back a little bit and then have the plant go in front of it as well. And just keep it a little bit smaller. Because I do like the plants around it, because my thought with having the plants around the sign was that it sort of broke up the path coming into the place some. Like, you just have kind of a small garden in the center of the path. And I wish that there were smaller rocks I could border with, because I feel like these rocks are too big, like they'd be a little bit busy for this. But then we could try putting some smaller plants in here, and maybe another rock right here. And I could also, like, I probably will put some lights in here too to kind of light up the sign a bit. I think, yeah, that's a slightly different plant, so then we'll get some of these back here. I think just that one is fine. And then I will also put a little bit more dirt terrain paint under here just to have it, just to break it away from the path a little bit more. Just to make it look a little bit less part of the path. So this is just supposed to be like a break in the path. Although with the rock garden, with the rock borders on the plants, I'm not so sure about the sign anymore. Or at least the placement of it. Like, I definitely want to have the sign, but I could also try putting it further back against the garden. But then I'm not sure about that. I could also, instead of having it right in the middle of the path, put the sign, actually just rotate it straight. But then I also liked it right in the center of the path, because my thoughts were, if I can get it back, that you would just be walking up to the place, and then you'd have the sign greeting you as you walk in. Roy Sim suggested tweaking the sign just a little bit so it faced more along the path rather than over towards the rock here. So that's just like a really minor tweak. And then maybe get a little bit of this dirt back in here. Just a little bit, because it's a little bit too much dirt right in here. I don't know. Now I'm not as sure about how the sign looks, but I can always tweak it. Also, Troy, Matthew, and Andrea wanted to see some pine trees in the front. So I'll see if I can fit in some pine trees. If there's a smaller one I can put in. What if that might be too busy if you had a pine tree like right there. What if there's a pine tree here and then the sign was in front of it? Although that's kind of covering up a little bit. Maybe we bring this forward a little bit. Okay, so now, okay, never mind. That's not really gonna fit in there. But I do like that pine tree, so maybe we can stick it over to the side right here, or maybe here. That's kind of an odd placement. I don't really think there needs to be anything else in the front. So maybe we could place it either, maybe right here. I kind of like how this looks, but that pine, maybe if I tried a smaller pine tree that wasn't so ridiculous, you know, or wasn't so wide. I think this is technically a cypress tree. I do think that maybe having a tree behind the sign would help with it if I could find a more narrow pine tree. There's also this. Oh, we definitely don't want to, that's like way too tall. We could also stick this, maybe this, I don't know about right there. That might be a little bit too tall for right there. Maybe in the backyard I'll put one of those. Or maybe a couple of those, because I'm noticing that like it seems like wherever they have them, they have a few near each other, so maybe I'll do that somewhere in the backyard. I've got a lot of, I'm just trying to work through a bunch of thoughts on this right now. This is also something kind of cute, but that's showing through that sign as well. So far I think that there's also, oh, this was another, that one's way too tall though. Oh, there is this small one, maybe this. Maybe I could bump this forward a little bit, put this in back here. Let's see how this looks. This, I kind of like this. It doesn't really, maybe it was a little bit shorter though. I could also try this tree, because it doesn't really have leaves popping through the sign. But I kind of like the idea of having a tree behind the sign. Like, I think it makes it look a bit less random than just having it right in the middle here. So you guys can let me know what you think of this. You know, just kind of like it's right in front of a tree. Just scooch it forward a little bit, and then make sure we turn it in such a way that it covers up the sign as little as possible. I actually like that. I think it makes the sign make a little bit more sense. Some of you might think it's a little bit busy, but I think it looks pretty good. And none of the pine trees, I know this isn't a pine tree, and that's what, you know, some of you wanted to see in the front here, but the pine trees either were too tall or they had the pine needles popping through the sign. There's also some suggestions regarding the balcony here. So Kelly said that she felt the balcony clashed with the rest of it and didn't really need to be there. And then Ray Sims also suggested changing the balcony window back to square. So I'm just going to kind of see how it looks with and without it first. So this is it without the balcony, and then this is it with it. I know it's useless, but it does help to fill in the space a little bit more. And then I'm going to try going back to the square window. So let's see, here's the square window. I guess the square window does look a little bit better in there. I kind of like the balcony in there because I feel like it helps to break up the boringness of just the straight wall. And maybe it looks, okay, let's go back to the, I guess it did with a square window. It does look kind of more like this could be a door, like that there'd just be handles hidden underneath of here. Also, Tatum suggested adding rock seats below the tree here, which was a really awesome idea. Although now I'm thinking that what I need to do is actually push this garden in a little bit more, because it might be kind of busy, like having the rocks and having it stick out this far. So I'm actually going to remove some of the plants and just push everything in a teensy bit more. So I feel like I'm not actually making a ton of onward progress in this part, but I just really wanted to tweak some things. Because usually, like, when I build on my own and stuff, I tweak things a lot, because I don't like just doing something and then being like, okay, it's done, I'm gonna move on now. I like to critically look at it and really think about if there's something I could do to improve it. So, you know, even when I'm building on my own, I kind of I'll spend a good bit of time on one thing just because I want to make sure I did the best on it that I could do before moving on. Like, I don't like just putting things down and then moving on without looking at what I've done. Okay, well, that random rotation's fine. Okay, so here we are. It's pushed in a little bit more. And then now I just got to tweak some of the terrain paint. Actually, I'm going to get rid of some of the plants in here because I think it is a little bit too busy. So I'll have to get rid of... Actually, maybe we'll keep that one right here and then just move this over a little bit. Because this definitely does need to be thinned out some. Let's get rid of those. And we need to let's get rid of those as well. And then these are fine, but we can just scooch them over a little bit more. Just because it was just getting a little bit too busy in here. And I also need to touch up the terrain painting in there some. Okay, so I think that's looking a little bit better. Except maybe right here, instead of this larger fern, I can put in the smaller one. So maybe we can move the smaller fern here, and then move these flowers right in here. Okay, so I think that looks a bit better. Definitely looks better not coming out so far. So now I'm just going to tweak things a bit and then bring this path over more towards this. Well, I'm kind of erasing some of the path, but actually I'm just going to pretty much redo this. Maybe move the tree and its garden back a little bit. Because I'm going to put, I think that right here alongside the path would be a good spot for the rock seating. But I just want to push this back some so that the path's a little bit wider and that there's a little bit more space for the seating. So just kind of rearranging things a bit, making it a little bit more compact so it doesn't take up so much space. Now I will just tweak up the terrain paint and everything a little bit. And then I don't think I'm gonna get around to the backyard at all this part, just because I really needed to square up everything that was done in the front from the last part. But next part I should be able to. This part I might be able to get around to the side here a bit, like bring the garden around back here, maybe do some of this. But next part I will hopefully be able to get onto the back of the house. So I'm just going to bring this a little bit closer over here and then get that rock seating. So now this gives a lot more space for that rock seating in there. And then maybe the rock border needs to be thinned out a bit, especially since we brought it in some and maybe doesn't need to be so close together. So we'll just rotate that and rotate this over. We could probably get rid of this, bring this over some. And I'm just going to put the little rock there back where you can't see it. And then we can also get rid of, whoops, we can also get rid of this rock right here. We don't really need it with the rock border. And I'm going to remove this and then just bring this over. And I might need to tweak the garden on the other side a little bit more because that garden might, the rock border on that one might be a little bit too full as well. And we can get rid of this rock. And we don't need this one as well. Just as I think it was getting a little bit too busy with all the rocks. And I think that's fine. This will probably expand over this way. Okay, so I think that helped a lot, thinning that out some. So now I'm going to do the same thing over on this side and get rid of these rocks in here as well. Maybe thin this garden out a little bit. Okay, so we're going to bring this back and bring it in there. Oops. Okay, so we don't need this. And we can bring you over some. And, okay, so this is, this is rather tedious to watch, I know. And right in here, I think this is fine. Like, all of this right here is okay. So we just need to do a little bit of tweaking over on this side. So maybe if we remove just one... I don't really know if I want to remove a rock. So maybe we can get rid of this one over here, bring this in. Okay, so let's bring that over a little bit. And I think that's fine. I think that looks a lot less busy than it did before. Now I'm going to add in the rock seating over here. So I believe those rock seats were over here in outdoor furniture. And is this the seat? Okay, yeah, this is the chair. A hard place. I really do like these stone chairs. Like, they're just so useful if you want to have outdoor seating, but you don't really want it to stand out too much. Because these just fit in so well with the surroundings. I'm gonna move this rock somewhere else because we're putting in these rock chairs, so we don't really need rocks there. I will just move you over here. So I like how this looks. I think that this is fine. Maybe rotate it. Well, the only problem is if I rotate it, because I think they'll just face forward. Like, if I rotate it back this way, then the Sims will just be facing the tree when they sit in it, so I kind of have to have them both rotated the same way. And now just to find a color that... I think that actually the original color's fine. And then I was thinking that I could put one of the lights that came with Outdoor Retreat in between them, so to kind of light up the seating area. So there was this really cool floor lamp, this one right here. I'm surprised it's not on the outdoor lighting, but I think that this looks really nice when you put it next to outdoor seating. Because it's subtle, but then has a very outdoorsy, rustic kind of a look to it. So I'm just going to add it in here. I think this color is fine. So there we go. We've got a nice little rock seating area with a light behind it. But for the time being, I'm just going to move on a little bit, hopefully get some new gardening done. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, actually I don't want to use that there because that's like right next to the same rock. I'm just going to bring this garden over here a little bit more, just fill in this space. And I'm just doing the rock border first, rather than putting in the plants. I just wish the rocks were a little bit smaller. Like, I like the rocks, but they're just kind of large. And then, I guess we need one more in there. I think that's that same rock. There we go. We try this one. And then just rotate this way. And I think we are good. So now I'm just going to put in this rock right here. Or not rock. This is a plant, not a rock. And I will actually use shift to place this so that because I'm not really rotating it as much when I place it. Okay, now we can start filling this in. So I'm just going to put one of the larger ferns in here. And then we also need some of these little forest flowers right here to add a little bit of color. And then right here, I think one of these flowers look good. And then we also need some stuff back here. So I'm going to put another one of these here. And maybe a rock right up against the house. Okay, so I think that's actually pretty good. Okay, where was that? Right here. Make sure I fill all that in. Okay, so we got the garden continuing around here a bit. I mean, I guess the rock border is nice because it does break up the green a little bit, adds in some grays. And I'll just continue this path around a bit. I guess... I don't know if I really need anything right here. Maybe we can have a bench right here up against the house. But I'm just going to bring this path around the back. Right. Maybe I want to put because I'll have another garden that goes around here, so maybe I want to do the rock border first. As you guys can see, I'm just like, when I build, I'm just really indecisive in general. So I go back and forth on things a lot. And I mean, usually, like, I do have a gut instinct about things, like, but I still kind of like to question things that I do, just so I make sure, like I said, just so I make sure that, like, I really did something the best that I could do it. So that's a big part of why I just kind of, like, second guess myself a lot. And let's just bring this around here. Okay. So I think that's good, a nice spread out rock border. And then we can just kind of continue the path around that. I don't know if I want to... I think it might be too busy if I go putting stuff on the other side of the path here. I don't really think that's necessary. Okay, so let's just bring this. And I'm just going to bring it only to this point because I'll probably have... I don't know if I'm going to have dirt or something like that going off of that right there. So for the time being, I'll just leave that blank and figure out what kind of terrain painting I'm going to put there later. And then we'll just do some flowers here. And I'm just going to get it around the edges first. And then fill it in. And just right here. Okay, that's good. And then I could try just holding down shift. But the only problem with holding down shift is that you can't. The only problem with holding down shift when you place items is that you have to end up going back. Well, me personally, I have to go back anyway and just adjust the rotation. So that's why I usually just don't hold down shift when I place plants. And I think we just need one more in here, up near the house. Or in. Okay, well, I kind of got one in there. Okay, that's good. And then we've got to add some more ferns in here. Ah, here's the big one. Maybe the big one right there, and then we can have the smaller ones over here. Oops. Okay, get down there. And then we also need this little... I really like this shrub. That shrub's really pretty. Maybe we can switch that and then get the shrub in here just to break things up a little bit. And then I think that the shrub would look really nice next to that. And maybe we need to get some of this a little further back. Okay, that's good. And then get those forest flowers to break things up a little bit. You can also add some of these in here. And some of these. And also get some other plants back in here. And I also wanted to use this one right here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Maybe a rock right back here. Alright, I think that is fine for this, except maybe just one plant right here. Just add a little bit of height in that spot. And then I think this garden is good for the terrain paint. I just gotta get all this under here. Okay, so that's what we've got. Actually, let me turn off the grid. So that's what we got so far for the landscaping. I think it looks pretty nice. It'll all look better once we've got all the furnishing going on. And of course, it always looks better when you don't have this annoying white line on the edge of the lot. I think the white line kind of makes it difficult to get a picture sometimes because it's just distracting. But maybe in a corner in the backyard, I could do the grouping of these larger trees right here. Like, I think maybe this corner, because this corner right here is already near some other ones, so it might make a little bit more sense to have it there. So I'm just going to place 2 trees in, and then after that I'll probably end things. Because this part's probably been going on long enough, I think. Okay, that is not it. This is it. Yep, that's it. Oh, it's a little bit smaller. Well, that's probably a good thing, because those other trees are humongous. Okay, so I'm just going to group 2 of these together back here. Maybe like this. I'll just deal with the landscaping and terrain painting and all of that underneath of them in the next part. But before I go ahead and end this part, I'm just going to just go around once more and show what we have done. So it's really starting to come along, and I am really liking these windows with the columns and trim around them. Yeah, so this is what we have. But I'm going to go ahead and end the part here. As always, let me know your thoughts on what was done, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and bye!